Welcome, everybody, to episode 31 of BT Shop Talk. On this episode, we continue our article review of fear and safety learning and musculoskeletal pain. And we finish up with our top 5 guilty pleasure movies. With me, as always, is Nick Overboard Doling and Jeremy, my girl, Van Klompenberg. Welcome.
We'll see how I did.
Just outdone yourself again.
You're way off the mark, because I'm not embarrassed to say I like Overboard.
Ooh.
Grew up with that movie. Kurt Russell fan again. I think I've said that.
Yeah. Well, teach their own, I guess. Good on you for liking it.
Yeah, it's not a guilty pleasure. It's just a pleasure.
It's just a pleasure.
I struggled with that on my list because I was like, I guess I don't watch a lot of movies I don't like
enjoy.
So
yeah, but you like them, but you'd almost be like, if you brought it up, you're like, I really like this.
I know we're early. Yeah, what was your criteria? Would you like? Because I have like a explanation on a couple of them as to why I would say like they're guilty pleasure. But
yeah, I guess for me it was movies that I think people just think are bad that I like.
Same.
That's pretty much what it came to me. Because again, I don't think like, oh, I like this rom-com. It's a guilty pleasure because it's a romantic comedy. Like you said, I just enjoy those. I don't find them to be a guilty pleasure.
As I evolve, as like I've grown and evolved, I think it's different. Like 20 years ago, probably be different when you're easily succumb to like people's like thoughts of you, or beliefs on you. It's like, oh, what an idiot, say like that movie. Mine was more like in one of them. Well, it's more like you're almost embarrassed to say you like it because it might be pretty low brow. Or in one case I wrote like, what if this film was in theaters and I was standing in line and my pastor was watching and paying attention to what movie that's going on. So that was a little criteria on one.
All right. Yeah, I don't.
A little filthy.
Yeah, I did not do this before I created my list, but I went back just for content to go. I wonder what the IMDb scores of these movies were. And they did progressively get worse from 5 to 1. So
nice.
I did a good job that way. Had one little hiccup, but other than that, yeah.
Older.
I like it.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
That'll be coming later. Yep.
Case, you just had a birthday, my man, right?
Yeah. Celebrated my birth this week. 2 days ago.
How was it?
It was good. You get 38 for people that care. Yeah, I made it. Birthdays are different. I've never been a big birthday guy. My mom loved getting us presents. That was a big thing for her. Grew up in a relatively poor family, so being able to give gifts was like a big deal for her. But again, my parents weren't like birthday party people. I don't really remember. I was just talking to my brother about this today. I don't really remember us having a lot of birthday parties. One time my friend came out to my farm for a birthday. And other than that, we weren't bowling alley, Pizza Hut folk. It required planning and talking to other parents, and that just wasn't their jam.
Yep.
So I guess I just kind of grew up not really caring for birthdays. And it was one of those, again, we talked about this last time, like attitude, like, oh, my birthdays aren't great. Like it just kind of set myself up for failure. Because I'm sure we talked about this before, but my dad's a big motorcycle guy. My birthday always falls over Sturgis Rally, right? So my dad was always gone for most of my birthdays. And then
the saddest shit.
Nitro. Yeah, you got your own thing, right? I mean, Sturgis only comes around once a year. Right. Unlike my birthday.
Does your birthday.
Oh man, this is like hurting my heart. My parents, because we didn't freaking dirt poor when I was growing up too, but my parents just went out of their way to like make them really awesome and let me and my buddies just be complete idiots on the farm.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't say I had terrible birthdays. It was kind of a non-deal. I love the presents. I mean, you got a Sega Genesis one year. That was amazing.
That's a sick birthday present.
It was a sick birthday present. So I mean, that was cool. But yeah, it just birthdays were never a big deal for me. I believe my parents finalize their divorce on my birthday, actually.
Oh my gosh.
It's just that like I said,
this just gets worse.
You tell yourself like birthdays suck, and then they just keep sucking. But my wife loves birthdays, and God bless her heart, she's tries every year to just give me an awesome birthday. So it was great. We spent the day working.
Shout out Lacey.
Yeah, Lacey's awesome. But she cooked me a cake, made me a nice cake. I had supper with the family. She made my favorite meal.
Okay, what's your favorite cake? Like, what's your cake of choice?
I'm a
You're
child.
funfetti guy.
Angel food cake with funfetti frosting. Yeah.
Oh,
it's delicious.
Is that what Lacey made?
Yeah.
You?
Threw it in a bundt cake. Made me a nice angel food cake.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's my jam.
If I'm doing my math right, though, boys, I think I am. Okay, your birthday was on a Tuesday, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Correct.
Next year it'll be Wednesday.
I don't know if
that's how
calendars work.
Then there'll be leap year. So that makes your
40th
is going to be a Friday.
Is that how it works?
It down right now, Jeremy. Let's make his 40th a big deal. 2 years from now.
All right, I'm in.
All right,
I'm into it. I'm always willing to try.
I'm gonna get you a Sega Genesis Mini.
Oh, that'd be nice.
They're coming out with those. They actually are coming out with those this year. They'll probably be gone.
So other than like 3 Sonic games and like Mortal Kombat, I mean, it was a week.
There was no, it was pretty cool.
I mean, I played. My brother got one. I like
NBA
Road Rash.
I mean, it had that. It's just all those games were better on the Super Nintendo.
Golden Axe. Yeah. Mortal Kombat way better on the Sega than the
Ninja Gaiden. Yeah. Well, didn't Sega allow more stuff? Like
Mortal Kombat?
Yeah. They had the full blood code. You could do full blood on and full fatalities.
You could on Super Nintendo too.
Not the first one.
There was some restricted things that Nintendo put in there.
Yeah, Sub-Zero. I remember Sub-Zero did not, or was it Scorpion? Whoever pulled the skull
Scorpion.
out. That was not in the Super Nintendo one. Yeah, it was Scorpion because in the Super Nintendo one,
didn't Goro rip out?
That was Goro.
Goro ripped out the
I'm pretty sure it was Scorpion because in the Super Nintendo version, he pulls this mask off and breathes fire and burns you.
Yeah.
Whereas the Genesis one, I believe he pulls your spine out.
We must need to pull the public on this. I'm with Jeremy. I think it was Goro because didn't Goro grab with like his lower 2 arms and then his upper ones would like rip off the head and the spine came with?
No. It is Sub-Zero.
It is Sub-Zero. Okay.
Oh,
so Sub-Zero does a shatter then on the Super Nintendo
Grabs
version.
the opponent's head, rips it off, leaving their spine dangling.
Yeah.
Sub-Zero.
Iconic.
What a boss.
Yeah, so I did get an Oculus or a Meta Quest 2 for my birthday. That's kind of cool. I'm into that VR thing. I think that's nice application. I have the Behave VR for the clinic. And then I thought this would be a different supplement because the Behave VR is more educational, relaxation, where Oculus, Quest has got, you can use the arms for it. Still no legs. I've checked out those systems, the ones that have the weight or the vest for the torso and the legs. Those run like $5,000. That's just a little much for the clinic.
So how long until you're like the lawnmower man from the movie?
Maybe I'm already there.
You're Jeff Fahey and maybe Pierce Brosnan.
Maybe you're just talking to me in the system right now.
I'm freaked out right now. Are we in the Matrix or outside of it?
There's a better chance we're in it than out of it.
I'll be honest, I've taken so many pills I can't remember. Red pill, blue
pills, green pills,
blue and yellow, purple pills.
And that's the world you're in. So you just gotta like check out for like the weekend, just like throw them on and disappear.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. I've come a long way. I had a VR back when the Oculus. You could slap your phone into them. I don't know if you guys remember, that was like a big thing they did. Probably. I think I had this S7 that could do that. It's come a long ways. It's definitely much better now. Pretty fun. There's I've mentioned this on the show, Afraid of Heights. So I downloaded the rock climbing one where you climb mountains.
So you're
Very
conquering
cool.
fear.
Trying
Are
to
you
conquer my
conquering
fear.
it?
There
Is it
were
anything like it?
it's actually pretty immersive. There are times where I got pretty queasy. Got like heart rate went up, got a little anxious. Like I was like, I might have to take the goggles off. But powered through. I mean, it's cool. Definitely gives you
And no doubt sweaty too, right?
Then I threw up.
Yeah. But my arms were actually pretty sore afterwards, going up the Alps. I climbed the Alps. So it was interesting, and I don't know if my arms were sore from like how tense I was, or if it was just, from the moving overhead. And I was like, boy, you slap a couple wrist weights on. Talk about overhead endurance.
Do you have a little sensory deprivation pod too in your house where you just can go and just immerse in the idea?
I tell the kids,
No.
Quiet.
So
you're out of here.
You're just dabbling, just working the big toe in first, checking the water.
Yeah, dipping one in. Yeah, I'm gonna have one of those big circle things that they used to have in the malls. It would like spin you around as you go.
Yeah, that was Lawnmower Man, right? I mean,
He had
I'm pretty
one of
sure
those
that's like
in
the
that,
final part of that movie. That's just a crappy movie too.
Yeah, not a
reference
guilty
that
pleasure.
before.
I don't even like that movie.
Yeah, it's not. It's not even a pleasure.
But so that you talk about immersion like that, though, you can cast your Oculus onto like your computer or your TV or your phone, so you can watch what the other person's doing. So kind of cool. You can like throw your kids on a roller coaster, throw it on your big screen, and then put them in a chair, and you can move the chair around with them. Because a big turn's coming up, you can tilt them back and forward.
Ooh.
Seems cool. It seems intense.
Yeah, it's not bad. I'm not a big gamer. I just I have like gaming guilt a little bit. For me to sit down for like 2 hours to play a video game,
Totally.
I got other stuff that I should get done, so I just kind of feel guilty to sit down and play video games. But something like that, most of those games, 5-10 minutes, and you've had it. I'm not gonna say enough, but you've had your fix, and you can move on. Like I said, climb one mountain, do 1 or 2 songs on Beat Saber, hit 9 holes.
You climbed the Alps, played music, and played 9 holes in 10 minutes.
That's the virtual world, Jeremy.
Does it like bend time?
It's impressive.
10 minutes to
you only think you were in there for 10 minutes.
10 minutes to us was like 3 days for you.
Yeah, it messes with your brainwaves. So
it's like the quantum realm.
It speeds everything up like 1,000 times, but being you're in your own mind, you feel like you're going at full speed.
Gosh. All right. Yep.
I read the Constitution. I watched the first 7 seasons of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It took about 6 minutes. It was nice.
Well, what I'm really interested in, not that I'm going to do it, but what about the nudie lady programs? It's got to be something like that.
Yep.
Yep. Spill the beans.
So here's the deal. My wife is, for the most part, very understanding of anything I'd like to do. Within reason, but she's like, that's
Where
the one.
Is this going?
That's the one. No,
okay,
she's like, I don't mind you playing games on there, but you better not do that. We're done. Like that for her is like cheating.
That's like another level.
That's like cheating.
That is like, I'd say that'd be, by definition, that would pretty much be cheating.
Well, I guess it all depends on like, is the computer person. Yeah, I've had to argue my points, right? If the computer person is just a computer program,
right?
AI is not real. We know that.
Next week's episode,
divorce
court.
PT divorce court.
Bring in Lacey and Casey.
Jeremy, you ready to be the judge again? I'm gonna have to pay you off.
I will not.
You're guilty. You're guilty.
No. Okay, I don't have a good argument. Anyways, yeah. So none of that.
Decision.
None of that, Nick.
Good for you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep praying for your soul.
Well, good.
It's good.
Somebody needs to.
Well, good.
You're gonna need strength with those VR goggles. Just tempting you.
Yeah, I'm surprised she doesn't lock them up when she's not home. But so far, life's good.
Wow. We're off the rails already.
Already.
I don't even know how we segue. Where do we leave off and then?
Yeah, we'll kick into it. Article review. I'll start us back up on it.
Nudie VR. Okay, using VR for treatment.
You could, yeah.
Not for lusting.
Definitely an option. So we'll continue our From Fear to Safety roadmap to recovery. I think just in the interest of recapping and getting us back on the same page, I'm just going to kind of go down that figure 1 just to kind of review what we've talked about, jump into some other stuff, end her up. Jeremy, I assume it's just committed to memory for you. So I'm going to go down the list. Figure 1. So safety learning how-to principles. Because we kind of talked about the background of the article, and we were just getting into treatment and how do you treat people how do you start to change mindsets? How do you start to find these maladaptive thought processes and change them into positives, right? That's kind of where we left off. So first part is that initial screen. We didn't talk about this last time. We all kind of use an electronic system photo to kind of capture a lot of our intake information. Do you guys specifically do any yellow flag screening on your photos? This article talks about like Arebro, Start Back. You guys do any FabQ, anything like that?
No,
I don't.
Okay. So I used to do a FabQ. I found it to be not as useful for me just because it was 12 items of really in a lot of ways kind of that I found you had all of one score typically. Like your thought processing was very similar through all of them. It didn't necessarily guide me a whole lot other than to say, wow, they have high fear avoidance. So then I went to like the OSPRO 12 item that they have on photo, the OSPRO yellow flag assessment tool. I like that one a lot. I would say if you guys are ever looking for one, that one goes pretty well. I don't use the Arebro. I don't necessarily have a reason. The OSPRO is just what I was more comfortable with. I like the question on the OSPRO. It's always interesting for me. One of the very last ones is, I feel like a failure. And then it's, never, sometimes, always. That one rarely. That one's always interesting to me because I really like, it really gives me a mindset of like how they feel they're dealing with it, right? Because we talked about that identity thing last time, because they might feel like, well, I'm not a failure, like everything around me is failing. And I'll get some people that are like, God, I always
kind of freezing up.
Oh no. I'll rewind.
Casey, I think we're losing you up in North Dakota, buddy.
Yeah, I hear you guys.
We'll have to fix that post-production.
I don't think I can.
But I think I get what you're saying. A question I got. So are you referring to like I know photo has some built in, fear avoidance questions, something along those lines. Jeremy, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yep.
Those ones at the end. Those seem to be the most, if I was to give a suggestion to their company, and I know there's people much smarter than me working there, but I would suggest that they probably reframe some of those questions if they possibly could, because some of them just seem to really trip up patients, particularly those without chronic pain. Those maybe your belief on it, like generally speaking. And it's a little bit more of a complex question, but I think even people who are pretty straightforward, back to work, functioning at a high level, will even answer that in a manner that says, no, I probably shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That might cause me harm or cause me pain,
I hope that was really good, because I had to change my internet connection, so that we probably didn't capture any of that. So
you're back now.
He's in here.
I just threw some filler in, and Jeremy's like staring at me. He's like, "What the hell are you talking about, bro?"
That was nice. So for those listening at home, I dropped out. I apologize. Just imagine Nick talked to Jeremy for 2 minutes. So
I was doing the Ed McMahon role. It's like Johnny was out, so Ed had to fill in, and then we're gonna pretend that that little guy Paul Schaefer was Jeremy.
Okay. Mixing your genre or mixing your shows. I
Yeah,
like that.
mixing them up. Yeah.
Yeah,
That would
were
have been
you
like a super
just
show.
absolutely hammered like Ed McMahon used to be?
You are
Yes,
correct,
sir.
sir.
What a show. What a time to be alive.
Yeah. So you're talking about the using a screening tool. And then
Yeah, and just talking about that,
interviewing.
how I like that failure question, because it really let me see into how patients feel. Like, is it the world failing them? Are they failing at the world? It's an interesting mindset change. And they still ask a few of those fear avoidance questions. They ask a few of, you feel depressed, those kind of things that I think there's been enough research out there now where we find that therapists aren't very good at identifying yellow flags. That they often ask, why don't you do yellow flag assessment tools? And most therapists, when polled, says, well, I know when somebody's depressed. Like, I know when somebody's struggling. And the research shows that we're actually really bad at that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's a cop out.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably more of an efficiency thing. I think my hunch would be we don't do it because of a combination of efficiency combined with insecurity in covering that topic.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And like I said, the research on it backs that up completely. We're just not very good at it.
See, I knew it. I know what I'm talking about.
100%.
Look it up.
Research says so.
Yep.
Solid research.
Look it up. You did.
Yeah, and it's just like psychologists did it. So those are people that are like probably way better at research than therapists. So sorry, Chad Cook.
Pretty cool.
Real talk.
So as far as this, what's the next launching point on this discussion? We talk about like practical application again. Like, what does this actually look like in the real world, interventionally?
Yeah, I think that we got to again talk a little bit about identifying it. We've talked about motivational interviewing as an identifier. I think last time we covered that really well, asking patients, what are your goals? What do you think's the problem? Where do you see yourself in 5 years if things don't change? What would be things you'd love to do if you didn't have pain? And then really getting into that mechanism of injury. Why do you think you still hurt? Why do you think it initially started? Because until you know that, we can't really start to create a like exposure with control situation like they talk about in the article. We have to know the patient really is fearful of these movements because they think they're harmful. So, bending over and picking something up, felt a pop in my back. That herniated my disc, and now 20 years later, that disc
still have a herniated disc.
Still have a herniated disc giving me trouble.
So we've got that identified. So then where's the next? Let's just stay with low back. I know that they say that they can hypothesize this to be effective. But let's just stay with low back. Let's use the example you're giving right there, because I think they use that a lot too, like bending over, avoidance of bending over for fear of injury. So then what's that next step? I mean, what's that exposure point?
Right. And I think that becomes where you suss out a little bit, because you can break the activity apart, right? You can say, all right, bending down, picking something off the floor was what you felt like caused your situation. If the patient says, I lifted something heavy, can we take the weight away? Can you bend down to the floor comfortably? No, I don't feel comfortable bending to the floor. Can you pick a weight, from thigh high to waist high, and trying some of those movements out, because they talk about creating a safe environment, right? We want to take this fearful experience they have, give them a safe experience.
So are you personally, like, if you're running through this, are you personally, like, you asking that? What do you feel like you can do?
I think that try to always ask permission, even in the exam, right? Well, you said bending down to the floor is, something you feel like that's what started. It's something you're avoiding now. Do you feel comfortable showing me how it looks?
Yeah.
Right. They go, I really don't. It's going to hurt. Then it's kind of like, well, would you feel comfortable just lifting something off my table height and just seeing how that feels?
Yeah,
okay, no, maybe.
The only reason I ask is because, in some ways, if somebody will tell me like, hey, like bending down to the floor sucks, like I'll try to find a way that like and seated to
Mhm.
facilitate some flexion,
Mhm.
right? Like put
Yep.
them in a position that they don't deem fearful and
Yep.
have them do it. And then, how's that feel? Oh, that feels fine, right? Like,
Mhm.
can you bend down and tie your shoes? Oh yeah, for sure. Like they have their shoes on. How do you put your shoes on? Can you show me how you put your shoes
Mhm.
on? And then have them do that,
Mhm.
and then kind of relate that, like, hey, you're getting like this is the same movement or a
Yeah.
very similar movement that occurs when you bend down to the floor.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't think about it that way.
Yeah.
So like just kind of then that relay of like, yeah, you are still moving, right? Your spine is
Mhm.
still flexing.
Yeah.
Whether or not you
Mhm.
like to bend down and pick up heavy weights, your spine is still moving like this to get out of bed, to get off the toilet, to get out of the
Yeah.
car, to put your shoes on. And like trying to relay safety in that manner to say like, if you bring a little bit more awareness to it, you are doing these things already, and your body is
Yeah.
safe, and you're doing them well.
Because you're creating like a cognitive association with those two activities. Yeah.
Yeah, or trying to. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then
Same
saying,
thing. Go ahead.
oh no, after you.
Same thing working, similar pathway we've talked about before. We've seen it, years we do. Like to start, just go to a 24-inch plyo box, tap it, right?
Yep.
Let's tap that repeatedly, and okay, no pain. Let's go to 20 inches. Okay, go to that threshold point, then know when to back off and say, okay, now I think I know where we can go next time, and let's work on this at home and work on this progressive loading of it. And some people, it's what's really cool, all depending on your patient, because every single one's different. I had one that I just picked up, wasn't my own patient, just filling in a couple months ago. She really stands out because I asked her to show me her lumbar flexion range of motion, and she completely like, I don't bend over. I just don't. I haven't for years. I was told it was bad by her chiro, and that's all she needs. And we started working on that progressively. And by the time the session's done, she was doing like Florida waist lifts with like 10 pounds in a basket, just repeatedly without any pain, just kind of breaking up those patterns and doing it slowly and organically too. Not overloading it, but doing a couple reps and then like, okay, now we're going to walk a lap, do a little spine mobility, come back, we're going to do it again, and just breaking those patterns and building trust, not trying to jump in too deep either, because I like how the article does point out, you can run the risk of an adverse response.
Yeah.
If you overload it too much, or if they have an exacerbation and they're not really prepared for it.
Yep.
Yeah, you don't want to create another painful experience for them, right? You don't want to say, oh yeah, lift from your 5 pounds from your waist, or thigh high to waist high comfortably, and then they go home and they're really sore the next day.
Yeah.
I knew it. I knew lifting, right?
Yeah.
But I think that is the hard part, because the article goes to that a little bit, and I know when we do pain science stuff, a lot of times we talk about that too. The nudge it, tease it, push into a principle, right? Like sorbit's safe. It's okay to have a little bit of pain. That's not the end of the world. But then they also say you don't necessarily want to use that as a stopping point either.
No.
You don't want to say,
I agree. I think
go till you're sore.
Go to it, not through it. That's something I've used for years. Seems to work because people build up a longer threshold. But I agree too. Yeah, one of the biggest keys I think is repeatedly saying like, hurt, like that old adage, hurt doesn't equal harm.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we're not creating damage. This might be uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, I was doing some mentorship on a knee yesterday. I don't know we're talking about lower back, but a knee, but an acute knee.
I hear it's relatable to anything.
And what we're saying is like, hey, so if this new therapist is asking me, she's like, hey, I think they got a meniscus tear. They had this injury, but all their pain's like anterior. Volleyball player, 17 years old. She's like, every meniscus test is positive. And I said, okay, so what do you think it could be? If it's not a meniscus, what else could it be right now at this point? She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, every one of these are pain provocation tests. So you can have a false positive in the presence of edema, inflammation, swelling. So once you manage that and move it on out of there, they're going to be fine. So going to the back and creating this analogy here, some things hurt just because the tissue is inflamed or the nerves are inflamed, and it doesn't mean it's damaging it. Right? Anybody disagree with me on that?
No.
not at all. But again, we talked about this last time. Our education makes that simple for us, right? I mean, that not always simple for the patient.
And so then how do you educate? So then you just got to educate the patient
Yeah,
in a way that,
right.
in a way that understand. Yeah.
Mhm.
Explain it to them. And sometimes the best way to do it, explain it to them, maybe not like they're a 5-year-old, but maybe like they're a teenager, something that they can easily adapt. The best teachers are all people that can explain stuff like that.
They're the ones that can't do. No?
I can do and teach, so shut up.
I'll tell people though, I say like at the end of the day, like, whether we like it or not, like our brain controls everything, right? And if we deem something that's not safe, like if our subconscious deems something that's not safe, like it doesn't matter how many times we consciously hear it, like, oh, it's safe, right? Hey, Casey, it's safe to be up on heights. It's safe to go on a roller coaster, right?
Not a zip line.
Right? Well, your fingers are going to get hacked off.
There's a 50% chance you're going to be permanently maimed.
I don't think that's been researched.
But I'll say the way, the way that we can get over this is like by kind of proving it to our subconscious, right? Like by like showing ourselves like, hey, I can do this and it's okay, right? Because you've done this and that's okay. But like you're still going to have this connection to that. And I tell people all the time, like, right, Nick, I would dare bet that you went through this a little bit too with your quad, right? Like when you're getting back to squatting heavy or cutting, right? Like there's like, when you go through the same action that injured you, right? Like you see that all the time with ACLs, like this happened cutting, this happened cutting and I didn't get touched and my knee gave out. Okay, well, you have 5 out of 5 strength, your triple hop test is awesome, your depth drop is even, you've got great eccentric control, your money, right?
Yeah.
But then you get in that situation and there's that hesitation, right?
Yeah. So
and
what do you think? So I kind of think I know what you're gonna say, but what do you think the approach is with that?
So like I said, I use part V whole a lot, like to just say like, hey, let's get into this just a little bit. Let's do a mini lunge, right? And then let's do a mini lunge and then a step, and then let's speed that up, and then let's load that up, right? Like
kind of repeat back into it's like so what I'm hearing and what I was thinking is like a repeat into like motor learning, right?
It is
retraining.
You are retraining that pattern.
It's like a mental motor learning, right? Same type of principle. Some block training, something repetitiously to instill a new pattern, new mental pattern.
Yeah.
And a physical one.
Yeah, agreed.
Because I don't think we can eliminate the possibility when you read this that maybe they do have, maybe they are using some really crappy form when they're trying to lift something up, right? Maybe they're trying to remain too erect. Like I would say that the gal that I referenced like 2 months ago, and I'm not trying to break this pattern. She was way too rigid, hyperlordotic, like so afraid to flex her spine with everything. So sometimes it's like reteaching that because I think your pain is probably more spasmodic than anything. You've been locked up and your muscles are working like 110%, 24/7 every single day of the year.
Well, I think the article does a good job about talking about how you can, once you start to take that fear away, then reinforce the fact that you can do these activities in a relaxed manner. I think that's big. That's a little different than, this ACL athlete conversation we're having. A little bit of difference that way, just being athlete might have to be really cognizant of where they're at. And they're doing a pretty high level activity that, they really do need a lot of motor control and co-contractions and things like that to generate power. Whereas the person bending over to take food out of the oven, can we make that safe, relaxed, so they can breathe, so they can let erector spinae, things like that, relax? Can your abdominals just calm down when you pick up a coffee mug? So that's, I do a lot of that with neck pain patients. We see a lot of that over utilization of those big movers, upper traps, levator. If you're lifting something overhead, your upper traps don't need to fire so hard, right? You're really giving yourself creating a lot of extra work and fighting yourself a lot of times. So can we create safety so that we can then focus on, this is just an easy movement you should be able to do naturally.
And I like how they talked about like that's on us too and how we communicate,
Mhm.
right? Like giving them some validation, not like, oh, that's so stupid, relax your abdominals so you can lift your coffee up,
Mhm.
right? Like being able to like decrease some of that arousal or fear just by the way that we're communicating with patients too. So I thought that was a cool piece. And like we always talk about Therapeutic Alliance and how important that is. And it was just like, hey, if we don't set that table, how are we ever going to get through to that patient to get to the end of exposure? So
yeah, it is nice to, like you said, validate them, because
Yeah.
it's not that we use this term when I was in college, a moron, right? You're not,
I hate that.
you're not doing
So
this
old,
to
yeah.
yourself, right?
Yeah.
But and I validate them by going, you hurt your back, it's no different than spraining your ankle and limping on your ankle. Nobody's going to yell at you for limping on a sprained ankle right away. Nobody's going to yell at you for doing some of these protective mechanisms. Your body was trying to protect you. It's just that also you don't limp on an ankle for 20 years. You know what would happen to your body.
Right? We're having the same discussion. I just frame it differently.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm like a big time. Hey, there's time and a place for that. And early on it's protective. If I demonstrate to them, I've had back pain before, so I'll kind of walk around the room and I'm like, if I walked in like this, what would you assume? Something's wrong with my back, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, and that's okay for 24, 48 hours, maybe 72, while you're letting it heal. But then over time, you cannot live there, and it actually creates more harm than good.
Yeah, and we talked about that analogy too, right? With the loose hand moving your wrist around, being so free, so pain-free, whereas you squeeze your hand as hard as you can and try to move your wrist. And boy, it doesn't move, right? You couldn't function like that. Your back's squeezing like that all day long. How do you think that feels? Or your traps and levators squeezing all day long, your SCM is firing, right? So that's that education piece too, that I like what Jeremy said, validate them is important.
I think I got an edgy little sidebar on this too. That's
get 'em.
similar, but it's not within the article. But we're talking chronic pain patients and people who have these faulty movement patterns and psychosocial, but also talking to them about like bowel and bladder function, not talking about like hot equine or anything like that, but actually the effects that this type of chronic pain has on that, like a gastric motility and like discomfort with that too. So trying to like work with them, it's not glamorous, and again, it brushes on some insecurities that therapists might have, not wanting to talk about sensitive matters, but being able to say, hey, I think if you find some regularity as well, that can relieve some discomfort that you're having, from extra pressure and just general, I guess, global discomfort.
Yeah, I think we talk about it in the article a little bit, flare management too. Anything you can do to reduce stress on the system is probably not a bad deal.
Like sleep hygiene too.
Yep, sleep hygiene. Probably it's probably a good time to eat healthier. It's a weird conversation to have sometimes.
Yeah.
Like you said, maybe people aren't comfortable with it, but what's your diet look like? I'm not going to sit here and say take a bunch of anti-inflammatory type foods that are going to cure your situation. I don't think your diet's necessarily the cause, but boy, it sure doesn't hurt to give your body the best chance it has to feel better.
I don't think there's any harm in. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I was just gonna say, like sleep comes into that too, right? Like, and you just look at that and like, I'll try to explain that to everybody. Like, how we move is affected by a plethora of different factors, right? What did we do yesterday? What have we done today? How did we sleep? What did we eat?
How do you feel?
Right, exactly. And it's like you can't, like, we like to look at things in isolation. So like, oh, I did too much yard work, right? Now I hurt, right? That's the only thing. Or like the classic one, right, is like, oh, we went through some pelvic tilts, the other day in the clinic, and that really flared me up. And it's like, oh, what'd you do after you left? I dug a trench and was laying cement blocks for 8 hours. Oh, well, like, why do you hurt right now? Oh, it's the pelvic tilts. It's like,
it's
but
the
that's
movement
like
they were afraid of, right?
Correct. Like that's a perfect example of it. And you just like, you try to bring it back to that to say like nothing happens in isolation. Like we're a product of all these other factors, nutrition, sleep, etc. And this is obviously nothing you guys don't know, but things that I wish more
It's good
people
for the listeners.
Inform
understood.
the listeners. Yes.
Yeah.
Preach.
Yeah, I had a interesting patient today talk about that stuff. Real significant fibromyalgia. Came in for shoulder pain, kind of a separate deal. Got the injection in the shoulder. I was feeling better, but we were doing some gentle nerve stuff. And 5 minutes into the session, broke down crying. Said, "I can't do this today. It's too painful. You can't touch me." So we did spend a good 20 minutes talking about sleep hygiene, because it's like, well, what's going on? I thought your shoulder was feeling better. And yeah, it is, but I just didn't sleep last night. And so I went through the sleep hygiene list. It's just interesting because the first thing I brought up was, no caffeine after like 2:00. And she was like, what do you mean? I can't have a soda? And I said, well, we went into a little bit of education about how caffeine affects your sleep and how you're not going to be fully rested when
Just
you wake up.
Even your overall nervous system.
Yeah, right. Ramp that up too. Will help you poop, but only if it's from
Correct.
coffee. Only if it's from coffee, though, not from soda.
I think there's some general truth to that. Give her some pre-workout.
Pre-workout will do it too.
Yeah, okay. But it's just interesting that, again, sometimes you take those little things for granted to say, caffeine, at 6:00 at night isn't not helping your sleep.
No, it's not.
And then, I asked that same question. I know you're in a lot of pain. Like, do you ever get outside in the morning? Oh, no, I usually don't get outside until, in the afternoon, by the time I feel good enough to leave the house.
Oh, I know where you're going. You're going to quote that study that says it needs to be natural sunlight before 9 a.m.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I told her. I said, if you're not getting outside, I said, two things are involved in our sleep, falling asleep, right? Circadian rhythm and adenosine buildup in your body. And I said, the adenosine buildup is getting just hampered by your caffeine because that blocks those receptors, right? So you're never clearing it out. You're already waking up with high levels of that in your body telling you it's time to go to bed. And the other thing is you're throwing your circadian rhythm way off by not getting out until the afternoon. Your body doesn't think the day is starting until 2:00 in the afternoon.
Yep.
You're not going to fall asleep till 3 in the morning.
Which is phenomenal if you're training for a prime time fight.
Yeah.
Or competition.
If you're a graveyard shift
athletes
person,
do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
That you can use it to your advantage, but that's not her situation.
99.5% of the rest of the world, no.
Yeah. So she was interested in that. She was like, I've never heard of that. That's surprising to me.
Way to go! You educated. You brought her to Jesus a little bit.
Yeah, we had some moments there. It was interesting because on our eval last week, she came in and
look into my quarter zip.
Yeah.
Look into my quarter zip.
She had the term right at the end, I'd like to see you a few times, work on a few things. And she goes, this isn't going to work. Right.
Ooh,
I
nice.
said, what do you mean? Right. And she said, well, like everybody's tried. Like, there's nothing you can do for me. And we talked a little bit about it. I said, it's worth, can do some different things. I can work with you. We can address some things that haven't been addressed before. Like, it's worth giving a shot.
Mm-hmm.
And then today, right, I mean, she broke down, talk about fear, right? I was like, okay, that's, it can be a tough moment, but we had some good conversations. I gave her some breathing exercises, addressed some of those issues with breathing exercises. And at the end, she said, I'm going to be back next week and I'm going to try this again and we're going to make it work. So she said, so that was cool. I mean, I hope she comes back. I mean,
cracking the egg, brother.
Don't have a true happiness to the story, but in that moment, at least in that fleeting moment, there was a change in attitude, and
change in belief.
Did you when you approached that, as far as your tone, your body language, everything, were you somewhat mirroring her?
As far as like
tone, demeanor,
like, did I get quieter? Did I get softer? I do that. Yeah. I would say I try to kind of match their level.
That's a massive, from a psychological standpoint, that's a massive, like, Tony Robbins thing, like, that I've heard him say over and over. Like, people come in and like, oh man, nobody's been able to fix me so far. Nobody's corrected these issues going on with me. And then the successful approach in that way is like, I understand. Sure they have, but I don't think you've tried everything.
Mhm.
Willing to give it a shot, willing to just try,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I think
I
we can
would
add
think
more,
if you would,
more finesse to it by this point.
I would think if you'd ask any of my students that follow me, I have very different demeanors with my
Mhm.
patients. I mean, I can be wild, upbeat, singing in the clinic, loud, and I can be really soft like that. Like I said, I get teary with patients that are teary. I mean, it's just natural for me, and it's not like a
So you're,
superpower or anything, but like,
No, it's
know.
no, but I'm
You know
actually
what?
gonna,
You
I'm
need-
actually, you know what? I'm gonna crap all over that, and Jeremy's gonna back me up because we've lived that
not.
same damn life. Because
Why would I
I'm
crap
saying
all
like
over it?
I'm talking specifically like the modeling of patients and the mirroring of patients from one to
Change management, man.
Yeah. I mean, we live that. That's like something I think everybody should do.
Yeah.
And it's not, I don't think it's disingenuous. You're just trying to do the best for them. You're trying to connect with them.
Well, in my mind, I can't imagine anything more annoying than being kind of down in the dumps and somebody coming in and going, "Let's get go," like Richard Simmons coming into the room, right? Like
we've
I'm
talked
over that.
about this, like where like we go pick up people from the waiting room, and there's times when it's like, "Hey, how you doing?" And someone's like, "I feel like crap," and then the response is, "Okay." Like,
All
"Oh,
right,
no."
let's hit the gym.
Yeah, but
And
do
he's
you
like-
remember, Jeremy, we would always talk
Go,
about
"Oh
like,
no."
like the ability to morph from like your like, I don't know, your 16-year-old high school athlete to
What's up,
then,
bro?
the next hour. Yeah.
You heard that new
Let's
Drake?
let's go get after it. And then, your next hour, going in and going out the waiting room, picking up your lovely 78-year-old, rotator cuff repair grandma, and being able to connect, right? Nothing actually as a leader, nothing ever bothered me more than seeing like other clinicians just try to talk weather. It's like, well, I'm kind of lost and connect with this patient. So how much rain did we get last night? And you're like, that's like the lowest hanging fruit you could ever have. Just
but
try to connect.
Sometimes that fruit doesn't even get cracked.
Just
But you're
the
right,
stare.
Yeah.
It's a hot one today.
Well, this is a good time to do my notes.
Yeah.
I know.
Enjoy the bike.
Yeah. I think some new steps is going to be really good for you.
Yeah.
Man.
Blood.
Talk
No,
amongst
it's-
yourselves.
It's like, the ability to just have, right? Because we all do have experiences, like, and I think everyone has the capacity to do that, but different people, like, they don't draw on it, or they're not available to it. Like, you have to draw it out of them. They just can't do that on the fly. It's just,
And it comes with experience. Some people innately are better at it.
I do consider it a superpower, Casey.
Yeah. But we all have it. That's the thing. It's like,
if it's activated, right? Or if we want to do it.
Keep it in my pocket.
Yeah.
Depends on how much caffeine and pre-workout I've had in me.
now the crying with the patient, I might have done, I think I've done that like one time. And it's pretty heavy. It was like real heavy.
Did it today.
But good for you. That okay, I'll give you that superpower.
Yeah, I don't definitely a empathetic person. I mean, I do feel that with people. So, and I think it's good. I think it's definitely that Larry Benz call to care thing. If you can get yourself to that level, I find it hard to believe you're going to have much burnout.
But if it's okay, now I would caution you just as a friend as much as anything.
Got to be able to wash your hands of it.
You got to be able to do it, move on, and I would not do that every single treatment with the same patient. I think that's unhealthy.
Ooh.
But that's, hey, you don't have to agree with me. But that's just my advice. People look back down the years. I also think it's important to create some lines too with patients, particularly when they get overly connected. But that's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, I think there is, and you could probably go even with happy patients. good patient. I mean, you do feel that connection go south sometimes. And that's a different situation.
Different pod,
Yeah.
different episode.
Right. I mean, you can have that. We do sometimes pick up our patients from the bottom, right? And I mean, it is easy to attach sort of a hero to your therapist too, and that's when you get into that position of power thing, and you see that all the time. I mean, that's a dangerous situation too to wander through. But yeah, how much do you give to prevent that from happening? That's like I said, a different conversation for a different pod.
Yep. Well, how do we wrap the tidy little bow on this article? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle.
Super thumbs up. Like I liked what they talked about, like with the safety learning piece and like having patients reflect on it. One thing I did kind of bracket too, like when pain control is not achievable, the focus is placed away from pain, which I think should be probably earlier on anyways, and towards non-protection and reassurance that the activity is safe while undergoing the process of graded exposure to personally relevant function and lifestyle goals, right? Like, I think that should be the crux of what we do with everybody. Not that you're not gonna be aware of pain and things like that, but I don't know. I think there's a lot of people, like a lot of correlation, just not for just chronic pain people, but everybody to say everybody. Like take a little bit more away from like, how do you feel? How much do you hurt? Like those are important things to know, but in the scheme of things, like how can we get you back to what you want to do? So
I think my final point would be page 10. Let's look at the upper paragraph. I highlighted public health initiatives are needed to change the pervasive societal belief that the body, including the back, the knee, and the hip, is
vulnerable. Yeah.
I think that's huge. That needs to be overemphasized. I mean, and it needs to get out of just the physical therapy world, because I feel like we're kind of in an echo chamber amongst each other in the literature. It needs to get out, as we said last week, into other domains of healthcare.
Yeah,
big time.
Yeah, the narrative has to change.
You have the worst back I've ever seen.
Yeah, don't know
how did you walk in here?
You're a speed bump away from being paralyzed, Jeremy.
Oh, son of a bee.
Yeah, I like the article too. I think it wasn't anything groundbreaking, and from a research standpoint, it was just framework. But I think the article laid it out really well. I think it would be one of those articles that probably, if you're in this profession or if you're in a patient that has pain, I think the article at 10 pages is worth a read for everybody. If I'm gonna be honest. Yeah. I mean, just a good foundational article to read.
Yeah. Yep. It's not a guilty pleasure.
It's not. You could
it's
admit
it.
It's just a pleasure.
It's just a pleasure. Just a pleasure. Well, good. Top 5 this week. 5. As we said, guilty pleasure movies, films that I'm almost embarrassed to tell someone that I enjoy. So we touched on a little bit of the the framework to this. Would someone like to kick it off this week? They got a good number 5.
I think I ended last week, so I can kick off this week.
Boom.
If you guys want. So yeah, my numero 5, like Jeremy and I said earlier, I kind of went more with these movies are, people are like, that's kind of a garbage movie. I can't believe you like it. There's a lot of things that people would say is bad. This movie's from 1991, probably not the worst movie in the series, but still kind of pooped on a little bit. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze. I actually, if I'm going to be honest, I probably like this one more than the first one, even today. Even though it's definitely geared more towards kids and a cash grab than the first one. Yeah. It's just cool villains. Taka, Razor, they're just cool.
Isn't that notorious though for like being a toy cash grab? I'm not going with Bebop and Rocksteady, but adding Toka and Razor.
Yeah. So it's cheesy, but I love like the underground train station. As a kid, I thought like I want to live where the turtles live. That was so cool. It was like the best place ever. It still hits me in the feels when I watch it. It's not, the action's still pretty good. You know, they bring in the pizza delivery guy that's kind of, he's a little cheesy. He was in the, you know, one of the turtles in the first one. Now he's a character in the movie, but it's just fun. You know, the vanilla ice scene doesn't bother me at all. I enjoy it. It lets these guys just be goofy. It's a fun movie for me. I know a lot of people think it's really bad. The third one's absolutely terrible. Nobody likes that one. So
Turtles in Time. Oh no.
Okay, that should be your number one if it's not on the list. If you like watching,
I have
that
no
movie.
Turtles on my list.
Okay, because
they're all just pleasures. I have no shame.
Ugh, you should be shamed. Yeah.
Turtle, okay,
Put yourself on blast if you like
that
the
is,
third one.
That's Super Shredder, right?
Second one, yeah.
Yeah.
The ending's a little cheesy with him busting through the dock and they knock it down on him, but would have been cooler to see him actually fight him. But I get it.
Yeah,
run out of time.
Mm-hmm. Also
That's my
played
only
by the big boy.
qualm.
Also played by the big pro wrestler Kevin Nash, famously.
Ooh, yeah.
Super Shredder. Yep.
So that's my new row 5.
All right, Jeremy, you want to?
IMDb score 6.7.
6. That's a good score. That's not the worst.
Above average.
I'm gonna look mine up now. Jeremy, do you want to go on IMDb my movies?
Yeah, for sure. You know, I classified a couple of these as kind of chunk categories. My number 5, like still to this day, I enjoyed Disney movies, like the animated cartoon ones.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, man, we had almost every single VHS that was out there, the big thick case. You know,
pillowy case. I don't know why they made them that way.
They were wonderful. And even the old school ones, I mean, like to this day, I bet if Robin Hood came on, I could freaking quote it. Robin Hood,
Fox.
Jungle Book.
Yeah, the other opening song is so money in that movie. Oodalali.
Oodalali.
Yeah, what a day. Golly, what a day.
That should be our theme.
So
maybe I can get the rights to it. It's probably public domain now.
It probably is, yeah. It's 100 years old. But no, my daughter's turning 2 now, so just like we watched Encanto the other, you know, it's just like they're just fun movies, fun songs.
So which one's yours?
What's that?
All of them. He went with all of them, Nick.
Oh, that's a cop. Come on, you got to hang yourself out there, bro.
I'll allow it, Jeremy.
Come on, it's a category.
No, Jeremy,
I'm 37 years old. I shouldn't be watching Disney movies anymore.
Did you guys own the Little Mermaid
different era.
VHS with the dongers drawn on the cover? Did you guys have that one?
We did. We did not have. That was Little Mermaid, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
There's dongers on the cover.
Oh yeah, the spirals to the towers. They were penises.
Phallic. They were phallic in nature.
I was not aware of that. I'm gonna have to Google.
Lacey won't let me look at those in VR. I'm not allowed.
There's a lot of.
I can't Google Little Mermaid.
Disney things out there, like the hidden. I think there were some in Lion King.
They say that, right?
Dongers everywhere.
There's millions of them. It's like Game of Thrones.
They're planting all these seeds. They say they're grooming.
Yeah.
Yowzes.
Scary.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Animated Disney movies. I enjoy them all.
IMDb scores between 9 and 10.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, come on.
The 40 to 60 that are out there. Okay. My number 5, I just did some recent reshuffling of my top 5 deck just as we're entering this. It's from 1989.
You can't do that.
No, I can. I haven't said this is the official now. So from 1989, it's kind of like the lesser valued of the 2 Van Damme big hits that put him on the map. It is Kickboxer.
Oh, come on.
What do you mean?
This might be on my list as well.
Okay. I Kickboxer is like, I mean, it's just awful dialogue. Awful dialogue. I still quote it. Landy and I will quote it in the clinic every now and again when he was still here and be like, no, Eric, we cannot fight this guy. He's kicking. You see this pillar, he's kicking it, you know, and it's like, just great. And the awful acting by his brother. I looked this up today. Eric was played by and this is, I've known this for years, Dennis Alexio was like a world kickboxing champ. So the brother in the beginning that gets paralyzed by Tong Po was actually like a real legit badass dude, but terrible actor.
Till he was paralyzed.
Yeah, and he's just like, no, forget it, kid. We're gonna be fine. I love that movie. It's so crappy, and there's like that famous drunken Van Damme scene where he's dancing and still beating up all these guys, and then the cheesy fight at the end where they have to they wrap their fists and then they dip them in like the shards of glass and everything. So everything's so over
As
the
they
top.
should.
That scene always gets me from the spoof Hot Shots.
Hot Shots Part 2.
But like gummy bears,
bears.
Yeah. One of the best spoof scenes out there.
Well, that was awesome spoof because they put that with Rambo 3 and that stick fighting scene. It's just awesome. But yeah, that's my number 5, little JCVD. I'll save maybe some more for Jeremy to say. But
no, that wasn't the same movie I had.
Nope.
Well, John Claude maybe making a couple of appearances, huh? All right.
Jean Claude, I love him. My
number 4 is a movie from 2002, IMDb rating of 6.2.
Okay, hold on. Mine, Kickboxer 6.4, by the way.
Oh,
better than I would have guessed. But
yeah, I will say, as I was going through my list, I was very surprised at how high these movies were. So this is 2002. It's probably I would guess my least known movie on here. So it's hard to say if that's a guilty pleasure because people aren't like judging me for it because they've never heard of it. But I show it to people because I'm like, you got to watch this movie. It's awesome. It's one of my favorite movies. And people are always like, that was terrible. Like, you like that? It's a little known movie called Run, Ronnie, Run. From Bob and David, Bob Odenkirk, David Cross, from Mr. Show. It was one of their characters on Mr. Show that they tried to make into a movie, and it's just very disjointed. But I love like every scene of this movie. Watched it in college a million times. Still love it. I think it's way more clever than people gave it credit for, but it's definitely fell into victim of, I think the studio got a hold of it and tried to make it into something that it wasn't, tried to make it into like a Joe Dirt type movie. And it just failed in that way. But there's Jack Black, Jeff Goldblum, there's some awesome cameos in there. It's just a funny movie to me. But yeah, like I said, it's a guilty pleasure because every time I show it to people, they're like, I don't get it. I don't enjoy it at all. It's not funny. I'm like, God, it's so funny. Me and my roommate in college loved it all the time. Kind of like you said, Nick, we quoted that sucker line for line all the time. I still quote it. It's a good movie, guys. Give it a shot. Maybe somebody can join me.
Run, Ronnie, run.
Run, Ronnie, run. Yeah.
All right.
That's my number 4.
Jeremy, do you want to lay out another like 30 movies?
No, I'm gonna do that later on.
Now.
My number 4 is action films.
I'll probably do that 2 more times in here.
The DC universe, because now I kind of like it.
Oh, whatever. They all suck, and we all love them.
Whoa! I almost put Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice on here.
I'd have to like it
just because of how much you two hate it.
Yeah, I'd have to like it to put it on my list.
My number 4 is Wild Wild West in 1999.
You like that piece of trash?
Oh God, that was a good movie.
Oh, it's not.
I like the steampunk in that time period. Like they're trying to bring this technological edge into it.
Oh my God.
That's bad. When Will Smith wasn't quite as crazy as he is now. The IMDb score on that was 4.9 out of 10.
That makes a lot of sense. Yes.
Yeah.
But I will watch that. I don't know. Like not that it's historically accurate, but I love things that bring in history and
it's not historically accurate.
No, it's not. Of course. You sure there wasn't the
Kevin Kline
powered
spider guy?
Could you?
Gosh,
I don't get how they could have picked like a less dynamic duo for a big blockbuster movie.
What a weird. I mean, sometimes that works, but in that movie, it's just Now we're really crapping on Jeremy.
Like I felt like they were
It's
like,
a
hey,
guilty
but that's
pleasure.
where-
I didn't expect
can
you to
you
like
believe
it.
Will
I didn't
Smith-
expect you to like it.
Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones worked. Who's
It
even
should've been-
worse than Tommy Lee Jones to
But
pair him up with?
Tommy's
It should have been Will
yeah,
Smith
yeah.
and Will Ferrell. That's who it should have been.
something like that. And the whole character is just weird for Kevin Kline. I mean, he's like cross-dressing and stuff.
Well, and that's the thing. Like Kevin Kline,
He was undercover, Nate.
You know-
I know it's like supposed to be funny, but it's not funny.
but that's what I mean. Like I felt like he tried to play the straight man role. It's like, why didn't you guys just get a straight man? Like, I don't know. It was like they
Yeah.
tried to shoehorn him into a role he wasn't meant for. I mean, Will Smith was decent in that. I had no
We're
problem
like
with his part.
like
but
to that point, I would say I think we can all agree Men in Black's like a legit better movie.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
100 times.
And-
All of them.
I think everybody, yeah, all three. I
Yeah.
think that dynamic works because they're so different. Like
Mhm.
Tommy Lee Jones and Will Smith, especially in the first one, like when you go to Will Smith being in his like late 20s, probably,
Mhm.
they're such different characters and different energy, But
Yeah, I felt
Kevin
like
Kline
they-
just wasn't different enough, and it was like they're like, I just disagree with you. And
Mhm.
it gets old too in a movie like that where their banter always gets in the way.
Yeah.
All right, good choice though, Jeremy. I'm glad you like
I
it.
still like it.
Yeah, if you
glad
like
you
it,
guys-
that's a
Screw you
great
guys.
guilty pleasure.
That's
If
money,
it's on,
dude.
if
Yeah.
it's on TV, I won't switch the channel. I won't.
I've
nailing it.
never watched it more than once, so
Give it another try.
I actually don't think I finished it the first time I watched it.
Oh, come on.
I saw that in the theater. I went to that one and I was
Oof.
like,
You
You
theater
sat
it up.
there. I think I took my younger brother to the Jamestown theater and we were like, we left and we're like, do you like it? Yeah, it's kind of fun. You're like in your head, you're like, it wasn't very good. Like, I think got a couple chuckles and whatever out of it.
Casey used that as a way to rest his
He would have
head on a
slept
child's
sleeping on my brother.
Yeah, maybe that's why he didn't like it.
He would have been like
It got weird.
He would have been 14, Casey.
That's too old to
Your
sleep
demo
on.
too old.
Yeah,
It's too old.
he probably already started developing delts and stuff. He would have
Oh,
been uncomfortable the
yeah,
rest of it.
Oh
on.
no.
He was already bigger than me by that point, so yeah, it wouldn't have worked. Just wouldn't have worked out.
Could have beaten me up then.
My number 4, I'm really struggling to call this guilty pleasure because it is legit. Just I feel it's a good movie, but over time there's some aspects that I'll get into that have become problematic.
Mhm.
So that's where the guilty aspect of this. But it is from 1984. It's a film I grew up with, laughed so much with Revenge of the Nerds.
Mhm. I
And
see where you're going.
yep, I still think it's very funny. I love how like Anthony Edwards and Richard Carradine are like 100% in. Like they just play those roles. They just own Robert Carradine, right? And they just totally own them. They go all in, the laugh. That's great. I think it's in its heart. I think it's a very inclusive and fair movie. I mean, one of the good guys is Lamar Luttrell, a very out and out character for that era, right? But it's a guilty pleasure because I acknowledge over
It's a
time
little rapey.
there's some scenes
Little
where
rapey.
like when Carradine and he gets with Betty and he pretends to be Stan Gable, the bad guy football player, because he puts his mask on, and yet but it's okay because you liked him more at the end after it was all done. I mean, it's so that part's, yeah. I mean, when you're young and you're watching it, you're like, well, he's the good guy and Stan's the bad guy, so justice is served, it's all good. And you get older and you're like, okay, I could see where that's pretty weird, and he took advantage of that situation. And also like when they're getting even with the pies and they drill holes and feeling and watch them,
Yeah.
So I know some of those things haven't aged well in the 2022, especially in the post Me Too era. But I still, as a movie, I think it has a good message. I think it's really fun. I think you got a host of really good actors. You also have John Goodman as the bad guy football coach, doing a
Yeah.
fantastic job.
Different
think
role
Ted-
for him for sure.
I think Ted McGinley absolutely nailed it as the bad guy. He went on to have that awesome run on Married with Children as
Yeah.
but you had Donald Gibb getting his intro as Ogre. He went on to be in Bloodsport, and just only a couple other things, but he's good stuff. Kurt Booger, I mean, just some memorable characters. So I still absolutely love the finale too when they win the talent show. And, Poindexter's blasting on his little violin and stuff like that. It's just fun movie. So that's my number 4, Revenge of the Nerds, 1984. IMDb score is 6.6, by the way. So
Too
not
high.
everybody hates it.
Yeah, interesting. I love when they're doing the Olympics, the javelin scene.
Yes.
For whatever, that kills me. That
Yeah.
scene is hilarious.
Because he wins.
Yeah,
right?
I could not grab a javelin and not pretend like it's just a floppy donger as I'm running with it. I don't know.
Because Poindexter made adjustments to fit Lamar's limp-wristed throwing
Yeah.
technique.
It became just a beautiful, perfect biomechanical throw.
And
that
you
scene's
got-
killer.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that whole, you're right. The Olympics, the drinking games and stuff like that were great, where they're riding the tricycles around there. You know, Takashi wins because they're smart. They outsmart the jocks, right?
Yeah, right.
They're using some type of additive to like combat the alcohol and stuff. I don't know. I still really like the movie a lot.
Yeah. I would agree with you on the fact that I had a movie like that on my short list that didn't make my list. Drop Dead Gorgeous. Same thing, like good message, inclusive, body image stuff, but there is some moments in that movie that just don't hold up well, and it's like, oh boy. And I still find them funny. So that's on me.
Yeah.
That's on you.
Yeah.
We'll get together sometime and watch our comedies in private and feel all right about ourselves.
Oh, maybe we should do a pod. We'll all 3 watch and we'll just commentate.
A watch along.
A watch
Those
along.
are a thing.
Yeah,
Those are
we
a
can
thing.
do that, right? I'll send you guys copies of Run, Ronnie, Run.
And we
Enjoy
can look
it.
at-
I've seen it.
You've seen
I
Run,
enjoy-
Run, Run?
You've
I
seen
enjoyed it.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're like the only person I know that's seen it that I haven't forced to watch it.
No, that was right. Like, yeah, freshman year of college. Like, I know it came out in 02. It was a little bit after, but yeah, I watched it.
It's a hit. It's a hit.
Cool.
Anyways, my number 3 from 1998. A jump back up in IMDb score. This was my bump in the road, back up to 6.7. People apparently think it's better than Run, Ronnie, Run. And this movie just kind of gets lumped in as like one of those classic late 90s action movies that's cheesy and tries to pull at all the heartstrings. It would be Armageddon. I love this movie. I love the cast.
love it, though?
Close my
I
eyes.
do. That's why it's so high up on my list. Like, it's one of my favorite action movies. Like, the cast is funny. It's a fun movie. The premise is dumb. I think, honestly, every scene in that movie I enjoy. There's not a lot of downtime. They rush through this whole thing to get this cast together, get them trained up to go into space in like a day. It's just ridiculous. It's stupid. The soundtrack's dumb. I love every part of it.
Or awesome.
Yeah,
And you said 6.7, right?
yeah. Who would have
Wow.
thought it's that high? Because it often gets.
Have you heard the famous quote that like supposedly happened where they're like filming some scene and Ben Affleck goes to Michael Bay? He's like, so NASA's gonna train like drilling guys to fly ships. Wouldn't it be easier for like astronauts to be trained into like
drill?
drilling? And he's like, shut up, just dude, shut the F up.
Yeah, no, there's a lot. I can see why people hate on it, but man,
It's such an awesome premise. Like, we're gonna land on this asteroid and blow it up.
yeah.
Boom.
And it's sad. Spoiler alert: Bruce Willis at the end talking to his daughter. I mean, it's emotional.
You
Steve
better slap a
Buscemi.
spoiler alert on the
Yeah. Steve Buscemi getting strapped down because he's going crazy. That's just awesome scene after awesome scene. Like I said, I don't know if there's a bad scene. Maybe Liv Tyler and Ben Affleck before he leaves. That's kind of a cheesy scene when he's got the animal.
with the
crackers.
animal crackers.
Yeah. Other than that, top to bottom, that movie's a banger. I don't know why
Good
people
cast.
crap on it so much.
Good cast. It's so the dialogue.
When like
sucks
half
so
the
bad.
cast dies when they hit the asteroid, though, I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
that was kind of a bummer.
Which will, I mean, I don't know. Some of the stuff's just laid out so thick, like Billy Bob's line, like, "It's called a world killer, sir." You know, it's like
So good.
it's not. But the movie, I'm kind of borderline with you though on that one. Like,
Yeah.
I think it gets more crap than it should.
That's just an enjoyable flick to me. I don't
How about
know.
you, Jeremy? Weigh in.
It gets the amount of crap that it should.
Okay, it's
All
right. It's not underrated. It's just rated.
Rated.
It's rated.
Well, where does it
Correctly.
sit compared to Run, Ronnie, Run? Which would you rather watch?
Run, Ronnie, Run, for
Alright.
sure.
I'm gonna have to check out Run, Ronnie, Run, I guess.
You
Okay,
like it.
Jeremy, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is Bloodsport.
Mm.
So basically
You feel
kickboxer with a
guilty
different
watching
name.
it?
No, I just think it sucks. I mean, like the movie sucks, right? Like by all accounts, like all Van Damme movies suck, right? Like they do. They're
Time
the
Cop,
come on. The
Universal
acting is
Soldier.
terrible, right? Man, I like geeked out so hard over like
This is a thing
kung
right now.
fu and martial arts when I was younger. You know, it did get a 6.8 out of 10.
because it's great.
I was just watching. I watched I don't know if I'm even pronouncing it correctly. Ip Man. IP Man.
IP Man? Isn't it just IP
Yeah,
Man?
yeah. I don't know if it's IP though. I think
I
it's
thought it
just
was-
like maybe.
I thought it was IP Man. I could ask my
Yeah.
son; he'd know that. Connor, he'd
I just
know.
watched all 4 of those recently. Like he was supposed to be the dude that taught Bruce Lee. Good movies.
Oh.
They're like again equally terrible in terms of acting, but just like martial art. It's freaking cool.
Yeah.
So
It's a
I
cool
don't feel-
movie. Kumite, come on.
I don't feel guilty watching it, but it is a bad movie, right? Like it's not.
No,
All right, whatever.
I love it. I love
It's
that
my
you love it,
it's
bro.
my list.
Yeah,
I
I
love
guess
that you love it.
my favorite Van Damme movie, I believe, is The Quest. Is that what that one's called? And that's like,
that's a guilty pleasure because that
Yeah.
movie.
Oh.
He's like he wrote it, but
yeah,
he's like, I remember I did this movie Bloodsport, and it worked in that movie. So he
Yeah.
basically rewrites
They're all the
Bloodsport.
same movie.
Yeah, it's like,
They're all the same movie.
I'm in a tournament, and nobody expects me to win.
yeah,
But I
that's probably
do.
a close one on my list because
The
I
Quest,
do
I
like
love
that.
that you
I do like that movie.
Also, Roger Moore before he passed away. Great Roger Moore. Yeah.
Yeah.
But Bloodsport, you know, I've delved into my love for Bloodsport already on the show. If I'm doing my math right, too, 6.8 so far is leading the charge in IMDb so far.
It might
Other
be.
than every Disney movie ever made.
Correct. Yeah, but that
Yeah.
we put a huge asterisk sign on that one.
Come on.
Narrow it down, dang it, Jeremy. One.
Can you pick one, Jeremy? Just like off
What-
the top of
what's
your head.
my-
What's
your
your one
guiltiest
Disney movie?
Disney
I
movie pleasure?
really enjoyed Beauty and the Beast. That'd probably be my guilty.
It's just
I
pleasure.
That's a good
assume
one.
that's one of the highest rated.
It's a
Disney
tale
movies
as
of all
old as
time.
time.
It won like Oscars and everything back in the day.
Yeah.
Oh,
Probably won Best
it
Picture.
did.
Probably the first animated movie to win that.
I like that movie. Freaking Gaston's a great villain. Again,
Yeah.
that's my theory. I've said many times. It's only as strong as your villain. Like Beauty and the Beast and Lion King was a huge 1-2 punch for Disney.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
got to
Three of
say,
the
if
best
I
films
Scar.
ever.
if I picked
Scar.
you,
I
if
don't
picked
feel
a
bad
villain
about.
for you, Nick, I think you'd be Gaston. Like if I had
Yeah.
to pick, like which Disney villain is Nick? Gaston.
Yeah.
I'm especially good at expectorating.
Yeah, see?
5 point for Gaston.
Yeah, I need a little lackey around me all the time. Somebody shorter than me though. Let's find him.
Lambert.
LeFou.
Lambert.
Come on, LeFou. Good. You know, I love that movie though. My number 3 is from 2013. It's rated 6.6 on IMDb.
Oh.
It is a ensemble cast film called This Is the End. And this is the first of 2 movies where it has that, like, does it pass the prism of if I'm standing in line to see it in the theater and my pastor's there, see, you know, like, what's he going to think of me, right? Do I lie? Do I tell him I'm not going to this one? I'm just in the wrong line.
Oh, I thought this was
I-
the This Is Us movie
Yeah.
with Mandy Moore. That's my bad. Sorry.
Because this movie has scenes where Jonah Hill's getting raped by a demon.
Yeah, I love
Laughs.
this movie.
And I love it too. I love it.
Danny
Every
McBride
scene
is the
with Danny McBride
best
is just
character ever.
hilarious. He's the worst freaking guy to ever, like.
Have you
face
seen
the
it in
end of the
VR?
I think it's allowed.
Oh, okay.
When I
Michael
get pissed,
Cera in there. There's
so
this
many
movie's-
lines, and you get the awfully funny Channing
Oh.
Tatum cameo at the end with Danny McBride.
Oh yeah, I slide in
So
that.
over the top, so over the top. But just a lot of fun too. And I'm ashamed that so many lines make me laugh. Like incredibly hard in that movie too. Like when he talks about like when he gets pissed off about I think it's James Franco chews out Danny for getting getting the magazines all stuck together.
They just argue about I'll do it everywhere here.
Bunch of pilgrims. But
It's so good.
he's an awful, and then I think we talked about this months ago, but it almost makes you wonder, is that just who Danny McBride is? Is he just that character like in every movie? That's who he is in real life.
But it's funny because I've read a few articles and they're always like, he's so different. Like he's the quiet one, he's the nicest one. You know,
British accent.
He's the guy that doesn't want to hurt anybody's
No,
feelings.
he's Southern. I mean, he's a Southern boy, but he's like, yeah, he gets after it. I think he's pretty funny in just about everything he's in.
Yeah, I mean,
That's why
it's that Will Ferrell thing, right? He found his voice that people love. And
Nick, you just got kicked out of your church.
Yeah.
I just
Jeremy sent it right,
Please.
just forwarded it on, huh?
So that's my number 3.
He knew it.
6.6. Let's move on.
All right, my number
number two.
kind of a great segue, if I'm gonna be honest. A movie from 2011. I just watched this the other night. My wife was like, "What are you watching? This is horrible." I was like, "This movie's got everything you could ever want in a movie." IMDb score 5.5.
Nice.
It actually gets referenced, and this is the end. So you
Is
know
it
that
Your Highness?
it is Your Highness.
I love that movie too.
Yeah. Boy,
I'm guilty.
one of my favorite comedies.
Lock me up.
I love fantasy, and this was probably, there's not a ton of like super funny fantasy movies, you know, where they play on the tropes.
Yeah.
So this movie's great. I think the story is okay. You know, the special effects are fine. The character Danny McBride and his lackey, I love that relationship. Like, entertain me, make silly faces, and he's like, never triangle face. Like, it's just so fun. James
Portman,
Franco,
right? And she's in there.
Yep.
He's
James
like
Franco's
the
got his
love interest.
mechanical bird. I forget what he's called.
Is that from Legend? Are they like mocking Legend?
I don't know if it was Legend or from Clash of the Titans when they had like
Clash of Titans. Yeah, you're right. Clash of Titans. Yeah.
But like Danny McBride hates this stupid robotic bird so much. And then he gets that dumb lizard so he can have a pet. He's like, this is Steven. And everybody's like, oh, Steven's so nice. I'm glad. And he just hates Steven. He's like, oh, fucking Steven. Like, he's just trying to lose it the whole time.
I so want to go back and watch this.
Yeah,
I think I did see that in the theaters. I was so excited.
I just looked up the bird. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
And like when he kills the Minotaur and he's like trying to cut his horn off because, you know, his brother always takes a trophy and then he's got his dick hanging around his neck because that's the only thing he can cut off.
I was gonna say the takeaway line for that movie is Julie has no dick.
Yeah, that's a good
Julie's
line
a eunuch.
Yeah, it's that whole thing's funny. I like that movie.
Yeah, good movie.
It's good. Yeah, that's my number 2. But again, even in This Is the End, they're like, oh, we should write sequels for all our movies. And they're like, yeah, except for Your Highness. That movie sucked. Like, even they
2 of
hate
them are
it.
in there. Yeah.
And I'm like, I think that's next Pineapple Express. That's probably guys' best movie. But
Good call. All right, Jeremy, what's your number 2, my man?
My number 2 is Transformers: Age of Extinction.
Ooh.
Okay,
so
go on.
like,
If you like it, that's a good guilty pleasure.
It was like the 14th Transformers movie. Don't fact check that.
Fourth. Yeah.
Yep. But
sounds
you know, they didn't have the original cast. Mark Wahlberg.
Upgrade.
A fan of him.
Upgrade.
Always a fan of him. You know what? I like Shia.
I do too.
Okay, Mark or Shia though. Who do you take? Leading an action movie? It's
probably Mark.
But he's not an inventor.
No. That's real. But you know, it's like
say hi to your mother for me.
That gets drug out so long, right? Like and they lose some of their luster, right? The original ones that came out, they were like so just like they were sweet movies, right? And it's like how
they're all guilty pleasures if you like any of them, I'd say.
Yeah, and I would have actually encapsulated all of them.
Oh, okay, but
however, that's frowned upon.
Yes. You have to make decisions in life.
But no, actually my next one was gonna be all of them too. But no, it's just like they're like typically like good action, like a little bit of comedy. Love the premise, like right, brings back something from our childhood. Good CGI. So
It's
apparently
so
they're coming out with a 10th one, and I'll watch it. Right?
Are they
I
fun?
will.
Yeah.
Going from 14 to 10. I like that.
In 23, I think they're coming out with like June of 23. It's supposed to be Beast Wars.
Oh,
What?
really? Mm.
One of
Just
the
saying.
best cartoon versions of Transformers and
I
Toy
also
as
did
well.
not mind. I did not mind Age of Extinction. The last night, I think the last one was really bad, but Age of Extinction, I kind of enjoyed. It's a
It was a
massive film. It's
It was
all
a 5.6.
No, that's actually the third one. Is that right? Age of
No,
Extinction?
Age of Extinction is the fourth one.
Fourth. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
It was the first one they kicked Shia out of.
I think
Yep.
I've only seen the first two. That was
Kicked
enough.
him right out.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yep. Okay.
my number 2.
Oh, I gotta pull up my IMDb because I did look this up, but I didn't see the score. My number 2, and I don't know if I'm guilty for saying this because it's just really fun, but it's from 1989. It is famously about to be remade again.
What?
It is Roadhouse
Mm.
with Patrick Swayze.
Oh, I almost brought this up last week. Freaking, who's gonna be in it?
Jake Gyllenhaal,
Jake Gyllenhaal.
And who else?
Conor McGregor.
Oh,
That's who made the
lame.
news, but hopefully he plays the bad guy. Yeah, 6.6 on IMDb. So again, nice little tight score.
I guarantee the next one does not score a 6.6
Fairly-
or above.
Fairly nonsensical plot. I mean, really, you got
Fairly.
a villain who, for whatever
Kind of.
reason, wants to run this whole town outside of Kansas City, and there's monster trucks involved where he's damaging other people's vehicles. Pretty awful dialogue, in a lot of ways, particularly the final fight scene between Swayze and the main bad guy. But Swayze's at his absolute best. No, sorry. Do think Pete Swayze was a couple years later, Point Break, in my opinion, but he's darn close. He was getting
Ghost
there.
for me, but go on.
Oh, okay, right in the middle, little sandwich.
That's how I like my Sways.
Yeah, and you got the amazing Sam Elliott is in there, and I think people forget. I mean, Swayze was so big, so awesome as Dalton. People forget that he had a mentor, and that mentor was Sam Elliott. And he
Yeah,
was
right.
great.
That was the prequel to Ghost Rider, right? It's
No,
the same guy, right?
Yeah,
no, he dies.
yes,
in
it sure
Roadhouse.
is. He's in Ghost Rider.
Yeah, right. He went from
Is that the
training
same movie?
He
No.
training
taught Nicolas
bouncers to
Cage.
undead demon guys. That was his next step.
And there's this just truly awful great scene where the blind bluesman is like behind the cage in this bar. He's blind, but he can.
How would we know that?
We know he's blind because I think he's wearing glasses, and they've already alluded
That's
to
a
the fact
good
that
tell.
he can't see anything.
It was in
But-
his name too, right?
But he can tell
why he's
just
got the
from the
blues, man.
sounds of the fighting. And he's like, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce you to the Dalton." I can't remember Dalton's last name, but basically the world's most renowned bouncer in the history of the world. He can travel the country bouncing club to club, and he lands
real
a
talk.
double deuce. Oh yeah, that's my number 2. Roadhouse, but it's still a damn fun movie, and if it's on, I'm gonna watch it.
I'm not gonna lie, it's really big in my group of friends. They all love this movie, and I can't watch it.
Yeah, I've never seen
It's-
it.
Yeah, I've tried multiple times because they're like, "Oh, this movie's so awesome!" Like, my friend named his son Dalton after this movie. Like,
Okay,
What?
I don't like it that much.
yeah, and I'm like, God, every time I try to watch it, I'm like, "Oh, that's the Ghost Rider dude," and then I'm out of it.
which should be on our guilty pleasures list. Nick Cage, come on.
Some good performances. He's
We'll
on my
get
short
there.
list with a couple
We gotta
movies.
Get some Nick Cage flicks in here, but that's my number 2.
A
Roadhouse.
good one. My numero uno from 1996. IMDb score of 4.3. So we
That's
are
particularly low.
yeah, particularly low. Many people would say this is probably one of the worst comedies from the 90s. starring one of the most hated, I would say, comedy movie stars of the 90s. And it's a movie I've watched 1,000 times and will watch every time it's on. It would be Biodome. Pauly
Ooh.
Shore. It is. I love that movie as a kid. I love that movie as an adult. The premise isn't terrible. Like, believable. Stephen Baldwin. So free the mahi. I mean, these guys were just so dumb. Have a party. We're gonna, party in the dome. Order the pizzas.
God, I like that movie. That's a good choice, Casey.
Yeah,
you're right though. It gets a lot of crap.
Yeah, it gets a ton of crap. It's just like Pauly Shore gets a ton of crap. All his movies. And I like most of his movies, and this is kind of the one that they really target as like the worst of the worst. And I just don't think it's that bad. I guess everybody's performance is really good. The main scientist that becomes the bad guy,
Richard Atherton,
is that who it is? His performance is pretty funny, just how he puts up with these guys and they slowly break him over time with their stupidity. The scientist Romulus just ends up becoming one of them. He was the most straight-laced one. Nicki Minaj, and I don't know who.
That's right.
Kylie Minogue. Sorry,
Kylie Minogue from Australia.
Yep. Foxy eating that carrot. That scene. Can't watch that one in VR, Jeremy. So yeah,
a lot of restricted content. On
Wife
VR.
says no.
It's Biodome though.
Yeah, right. One of my favorite scenes of that movie is when they're like playing golf with the shower heads, and he like hits the golf ball, and he's got the stupid goat as his caddy. He's like, "Damn it, Billy! I told you a 3-iron." Like,
there's a fun montage when they're cleaning up the Biodome.
With I think it was Men at Work they're playing. We can dance if we want to. Leave our friends behind.
Was it Men with Hats?
Men with. Is it Men with Hats or Men?
We can dance. Men with Hats.
We can dance. Anyways, that's the song.
Men at Work was
Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez.
And that's a good movie too. Yeah. Another guilty pleasure movie.
I don't think that's a guilty. That's
garbage.
Men without hats.
Men without hats. We can dance if you want to. We can leave they reenact that.
Friends don't dance, and if they don't dance, then they're no friends of mine.
We're gonna get flagged.
We can dance. We can dance. Anyways, that's my numero uno.
Doing it from pole to pole. Whoa. All right, good choice, man. That's an awesome choice. It's a banger of a movie.
Yeah, at 4.3.
Michelle and I both enjoy that flick.
Good.
When you go back and watch it, it doesn't make me laugh as much as it used to, but I really enjoyed the heck out of it.
If I saw it for the first time ever today, I'd probably hate it.
Probably not. Yeah,
but
that's nostalgia, right?
Yeah, the nostalgia for me is so strong. Every scene is just funny.
And that was kind of big because remember how there's a second movie where Pauly Shore, people kind of totally forget that part, but he famously cut his hair for in the army now. And that was a huge
him and
deal.
Andy Dick.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And then then he had like purple hair or red hair in Biodome?
Yeah, I don't even remember
some
off the
type
top
of
of my
dye.
head now. Yeah. It's been a little while since I've seen the movie now, but I watched that movie a ton.
Pauly was an acquired taste. He was not a Danny McBride.
No. Yeah, it was the one where he goes out in the country. That was like his first big hit. That one,
Son-in-Law.
Yeah, Son-in-Law.
He's in South Dakota.
That a lot too. Yeah, we watched that.
He was in Lesser Dakota.
Yeah, when he's got just the chaps on. That scene was funny to me. It's also a VR no. So.
Yeah, correct.
She's not discriminate.
Lacey's
guys, gals. I can't do any of it.
She's got the clamps on.
Just keep that VR unlocked.
Yep.
All right, Jeremy, what's your number one?
My number two, or number one, excuse me. Can I do 2A? No, my number one is going to be, this was actually going to be all of the Fast and Furious movies.
Can't do it.
I know. So I broke it down to
number two.
No, Hobbs and Shaw.
Number three.
Hobbs and Shaw. You're saying that's the worst?
Yeah, it's like the 50th movie they've done. It's like
but it's a spin-off.
Yeah. And it's the same movie every time, right?
Pretty similar, yeah.
It's the same movie.
But you have a good villain. Idris Elba is like a great villain.
Idris Elba is a great villain. And I want to see if they make a second one. At the end of that, when when they're fighting, like the helicopter goes down and they're just beating
Yeah,
the crap
there's some
out of
trash
them.
scenes in there too.
Oh yeah. But The Rock is so good. I've always been a big Jason Statham
Mhm.
fan too.
Yeah.
Just like because we had the same
Similar
haircut
look.
and Kung Fu.
Yes.
But
British
man,
accent.
If it's on the menu.
yeah. But no, it's like it's the same regurgitated movie over and over and over again, and I still love watching them.
I will see your Hobbs and Shaw, and I will raise you the second one and the ninth one. That last one that came out with John Cena. That one's awful. That one's like, there's no point in it. When you talk about regurgitating a film.
Do you think?
But do you actually like the ninth one? We're talking guilty pleasures.
I do.
Okay.
I like them all. But do you
when they went
the
to
second one
space,
was
you
worse
liked
than-
when Ludacris and Tyrese went to space.
I think they're hilarious.
What can't these guys do anymore? What type of shenanigans are they going to get into?
We strapped a rock into a
It's
car.
like the 10th one. Vin Diesel's going to be trying to replicate Interstellar. And it's like,
Oh, take a little car inside of the Rock's brain.
who hasn't used NOS to hit a wormhole?
But you know what?
Time.
I think 2 is better than Tokyo Drift.
I never saw Tokyo Drift.
Oh, come on, man. That's why all of these should be able to be lumped into one guilty pleasure. They're the same movie.
I've had people say that if you go back and watch Tokyo Drift, it's like really good and really integral to like everything that came after that. But
the storyline fits up.
Yeah, because they introduced like a lot of new dudes in that one.
They do.
Yeah, but at the time it came out, I did see the second one. I rented it and I was like, it just doesn't
jump the shark
feel,
already at number 2.
Yeah. So then when number 3 came out and they had no Vin Diesel or Paul Walker, you're like, okay, they're not even trying anymore.
Yeah.
And then when they came back for the 4th one, all those years later, you're like, oh,
and then
is nostalgia here already? And then let's bring back Letty, and let's introduce this other person.
Yeah. You know what? I got to give it to him though. Like that's got to be one of the most lucrative lines of movies ever.
Yeah, I agree.
I would have never thought after watching the first one that would be a successful franchise.
Totally agree.
Oh, you didn't want to have the NOS button in your car.
No, I like the first movie. I think the first movie, but like I thought, it was it, right? Like it was a self-contained movie, and I was like, okay,
yeah, it could have been done. And I think
if you were going to tell me we'll do 10 more of these, that's
crazy.
That's impossible.
They have the 10th one planned outside of the Hobbs and Shaw. Like next year, it's supposed to be coming out.
Yeah,
I would have bet you so much money that it would not make $1 billion in one movie later on in its life.
Especially since like I love how the internet community recognized this. Like me and my buddies who went to it, one guy for sure agreed with me on this because we were big Point Break fans. Right away when we went to the first one, we're like, this is just, it's like Point Break. It's like the exact same plot. And a couple other guys say, whatever. And then he hops in his little, Hyundai and starts peeling out of the parking lot. Like, I just saw Fast and Furious. I'm ready to go. Good choice though. I like it.
Love it.
At the end of the day, because they are what they are, right? I mean,
they are.
And we're at that point in life where I think it's fair. There's some nights where I've told Michelle, I'm like, it's like, what do you want to watch? Or we're gonna watch something with kids. I'm like, just somewhere I don't have to think. Yeah. Somewhere I could shut my brain off and just like chuckle here and there.
You're gonna love Run Runny Runs.
Okay.
You like Trailer Park Boys?
I do like Trailer Park. That's a guilty pleasure show.
Yeah.
That would be.
That's another top 5. I like that.
A dirty swish, Julia.
Dirty swish. Damn dirty swish. Now I'm gonna get sidetracked. My number 1 is kind of exact same vein as This Is the End. And I did see this in the theater, and I don't know to this day if I've ever laughed so hard at various scenes. It's lowbrow, it's highbrow, it's everything in between. It's Team America World Police from 2004.
Here to save the mother effing day, yeah.
I know. Between the soundtrack, I mean, the moment the movie hits, it knows what it's about. It's incredibly. I think it's incredibly smart. It really is, but there's so many scenes in there that I would like. Okay, so I'm gonna replace the pastor thing. Let me replace the pastor analogy with saying, if I'm at home and my kids walk in to watch a movie, am I gonna watch it with them? No, I am not going to do that with my kids around. There's too many public sex scenes. It gets a 7.2 on IMDb.
Scenes. Yeah, I think it's a good movie.
It's guilty for a complete different reason. I think it's great.
Hans Briggs.
Hans Briggs, goddamn. You got ruined Matt Damon for so many years. Matt Damon.
Yeah, just the use
Alec
of
Baldwin.
puppets in such a funny way. Like when he talks about how he's such a good karate, he's been trained in so many different. They just mash each other.
When Baylor and Gunner run, Baylor tries to keep up with him, but he's only 4, and I'm always like telling Michelle, he's like, hey. His arms just flop to the side, his legs stay locked, and it's like, I'm like, that's the Team America run right there. So
just give us the sign.
I love
freedom costs $1.25.
Freedom costs $1.05. $1.05. Yep. There's so many great scenes. I love the hard ass Chris, he's always just pissed off at Gary, the new guy. God damn it, Gary, I'm gonna kick your ass, and he's got no reason to hate him other than the fact that he's not the other guy that was leading the team before.
Yeah.
That's great. And then there's the amazing scene, and I'm almost afraid to say this out loud, but where the boss is like talking with Gary at the end, and the whole time they've been setting it up, like Gary keeps thinking this guy's gonna want him to give him head, and he's like, no, we're not all perverts, Gary. And then finally it happens, and he's like, I need you to suck my dick. And he's like, it's like, and he's real. He's like, we're the eye of the needle. We must both pass through. It's so bad.
The eye of the needle.
You can't watch that on VR either.
It's puppets. It counts. It's okay.
Yeah,
as long as it's not real people, Jeremy. Yeah, it's a good movie. Yeah, I don't even know if I'd consider that a guilty pleasure. It's a very popular movie. People love it. But I see where you're coming from.
Do you let your kids watch it with you?
No, but there's 10,000 movies I
Would
like.
you feel
let my
guilty if your kids were watching it with you?
Again, anything probably R-rated, I'd feel guilty. But
as you should.
Yeah, right.
As you should. Good answer.
That just means you're a good person.
Except for
I sure wouldn't let my kids watch Run, Ronnie, Run. I guess that's probably the only one on my list that I wouldn't let them watch. But
I got 3 for sure.
Run, Ronnie, Run's got a pretty famous Jack Black song in it that my kids probably don't need to hear. So
I could have almost put the Tenacious D movie on here, The Pick of Destiny.
Yeah,
that was a good movie.
Yeah,
I wanted to like it more than I did.
I think Tenacious D's a low-key, great, fun band to listen to.
Oh yeah, I love their debut album. I listened heck out of
Kielbasa sausage.
But cheek is warm. Then get it on. Yeah, that's a banger. With karate, I'll kick your ass from here to right over there.
We'll have to come up with another top 5 related to songs.
Yeah.
Somehow related to Tenacious D.
And I'll pull out all your pubic hair.
Yeah.
That's a good line.
Yeah. I actually was Connor is into, he really likes some retro stuff. He really likes 80s, and he likes Rainbow in the Dark by Dio. And I always, every time I think of Dio, I think of Tenacious D song.
Yeah.
Dio has rocked for a very long time. No more rocking for you.
All right, and that concludes episode 31 with a nice Dio rendition. Thanks everybody for listening. If you got questions, comments, top 5s, things you want us to cover, you want to be a guest on the show, give us a shout at ptshoptalk@gmail.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe wherever you listen to us on pods. Check us out on YouTube. We got a channel there as well. We post all the videos of our shows. Like us on Facebook. We post updates whenever shows hit on there, as well as try to get some extra content here and there with some videos and other stupid things. So until next time, I'm Casey Hansen, and with me as always is Nick Doling and Jeremy Van Klompenberg. Thank you.
Apparently we never get it back.
Yeah, you're never.
Bye.